Sometimes we just know what to do without having to think about it, as if the information came from some hidden region of the brain that we don't have direct access to. Part of the process of controlling the mind is utilizing this intuitive force. I once heard a wise old Southern man speak about the best way to make decisions. He said when he had a difficult decision to make, he didn't think about it or weigh pros and cons, etc. Instead, he went outside and mowed the lawn, or did something else that he knew he had to do. By the time he was done, either the universe, an unfolding circumstance, made the decision for him, or the answer was there in his head. More often than not, he said, the decision was made for him. An arguable selling point for you procrastinators. A lot of us have had the experience, especially math students, where we're trying to solve a complex problem and are hitting wall after wall of mental blocks. But we go to sleep, and in the morning, the solution is right there in our heads. It seems we solve the problem in our dreams without thinking about it. This often reminds me of those old cartoons where the little elves would come during the night and fix a bunch of shoes for the cobbler. Our minds are like that. We can give it mental tasks to do, even say things like, "Solve this for me and let me know what you come up with." Then do something else, and it works. The ancient Greeks used to call this phenomenon man's demon. D-A-E-M-O-N. That's man's demon, pronounced like demon, not Matt Damon. Although you can imagine a little Matt Damon in your head solving problems for you, and it'll still work. As the Greek story goes, Timarchus saw spirits which were partly attached to human bodies and partly over and above them, shining luminously over their heads. He was informed by the oracle that the part of the spirit which was immersed in the body was called the soul, but the outer and unimmersed portion was called the demon. Again, not the evil thing you're thinking of. This is something good. The oracle also informed him that every man had his demon, whom he is bound to obey. Those who implicitly follow the guidance are the prophetic souls, the favorites of the gods. Hindu gurus will sometimes refer to this as part of the higher self. Often, as we are on the path to achieving our dreams, we come across forks in the road. In my experience, the decision of which route to take or what choice to make is not always a what's the best decision proposition, but a what will cause the least amount of future problems question. Since we cannot predict future events with any usable certainty, and since our subconscious is chewing on observations that we haven't processed yet, there is a great benefit to delegating this decision-making to the intuitive faculties of the mind. If you've never seen your subconscious in action after the fact, this may seem crazy to you, but actually giving out the command, "Make this decision for me," to your mind is actually allowing it to do so, or allowing circumstances to unfold to the point where the decision is no longer yours to make. It's a much more effective way of coming to the right answer than overanalyzing data and pros and cons. Not to say that our minds already know everything already. We definitely do have to collect knowledge and information like we do with meditation exercises. But overanalysis of possibilities, over-reliance on useless data, and or the inability to distinguish noise from real information is what we've got to avoid, and what we get to avoid when using intuition for decision-making. A Hindu yogi might even go about the process by relaxing into a meditative state, concentrating on the subject at hand, forming the question and willing the subconscious mind to come to an answer. He might even form a visual interpretation of the subject and imagine it getting dropped through a trapdoor out of his conscious thought and say out loud, "I wish this subject analyzed, or solved, or organized, etc. And the results give back to me. Do it!" Speaking to your subconscious mind as if it were a different person, especially one that is your indentured slave whose purpose it is to do your mental bidding, is a surprisingly effective way of moving forward. Imagination is your friend. This method is also successful if you do it confidently. Confidently expect results from your mind, and it will obey. Be wishy-washy and doubtful about this process, and your subconscious somehow won't take you seriously enough to be of any use. Our minds are like belligerent kids. With discipline, they behave and can bring a lot of joy. But they can smell your fear if you're not sure about your place as head of the household. In other words, if you let your mind do what it wants and speak to it with no authority in your voice, it'll own you instead of the other way around. The effectiveness of this process also seems to get better with practice. To quote a yogi, "Remember that you are passing on thoughts for the subconscious to act upon. and that the more tangible and real these thoughts are, the better can they be handled. Therefore, any plan that will build these thoughts up into real things is the plan to pursue.